Joining me for all the chat today, delighted to say, as always, Claire Pearsall, former Conservative Government Advisor. Morning to you.
Morning.
We've got to start again with this fun and games between Wes Streeting and Number 10. I mean, what on earth anyone was thinking with this? I mean, clearly this went out from the highest level of Number 10. Yeah. So, finger being pointed at Morgan McSweeney. I mean, I don't know which job he's in this week. I mean, they changed staff like I changed my knickers, frankly. Yeah. I mean, genuinely, Morgan McSweeney, Chief of Staff, Director of Communication, whatever the hell he is these days. But this briefing's come against, senior figures in the cabinet. They've briefed against Angie Rayner before when she was Deputy PM. They've briefed against Lucy Powell, against Bridget Phillipson. Wes Streeting did congratulate them today, actually coming after the boys instead of just going after the women. But he's denied it all. And basically says they've been watching too much Celebrity Traitors and it's all a load of nonsense. But it says there's a toxic culture at Number 10 and people need to be fired for doing this briefing. I mean, here's the thing. What were they thinking? What did they think they would gain from actually putting out this story and leaking it to all these different media organisations?
I don't know, and I think this is the really damning aspect of this. A lot of us are just sitting here sort of shrugging our shoulders going, I don't know what you wanted to achieve, I don't know how you were going to achieve it, and what is the end goal, because none of these things make sense. Yeah. And I was watching it last night when it was unfolding, when the briefing was coming out, and you just think a bunch of 10-year-olds at Number 10 has decided that this would be a really jolly wheeze and you can get a lot of other people into trouble, especially Wes Streeting, who was out on the media round this morning.
I mean, but you'd also know that Wes Streeting is really good at the media round. He was really funny. He was saying, things like, I'm not plotting. I'm not responsible for, assassinating JFK. Yes. Or the moon landings being faked, or, I mean, he went through a whole load of things, and he was quite derisory about it. But he can handle himself. So what have they achieved? He's pledged loyalty. Brilliant. Yeah. Well. Yeah. So now what? But if it all goes, technical term, tits up after the budget, as it's likely to do, and the polls plunge even further, and everyone's demanding the head of Rachel Reeves on a spike, and ultimately the Prime Minister's, that's not going to stop a leadership plot.
No, but of course it is. I mean, it never would. And this is what I mean. This is why I don't understand, because all you've done is succeed in making Wes Streeting look really, really good. He's gone out there.
Quite leadership-y.
Personable. He's been user-friendly.
Funny.
He's made jokes. I quite like him. I have to admit, I think he's very good.
Is there an issue here that maybe, like with every single story that comes out of Number 10, they're just not very good?
Yeah,
there's a lot of hubris. They really do. I mean, they think they're the bee's knees. Look at that amazing, we turned it around after Corbyn. It's an amazing election victory, blah, 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 which was mostly an election defeat for the Tories. And they just believe their own publicity.
They do, and there's such a small circle of individuals that they don't ever seem to step outside and go and talk to anybody else, even their own party they don't speak to. They're closeted up in Number 10. They think they're brilliant. They think they're very, very strategic and masterful.
They do.
And when you step out of that bubble, sometimes you have to take a long, hard look at yourself, and they can't do that.
They
have no self-awareness.
Well, I mean, in less than an hour's time, Keir Starmer's going to be at PMQs. I wonder whether Kemi Baden will ask about any of this, but then she faces her own woes. She's basically got Robert Jenrick sitting there going, hi, in the background, and others, of course. Katie Lamb's been mentioned a lot lately, hasn't she? But basically, a lot of people were very unhappy with the Tories over chaos management, the economic crisis, you name it. But what they particularly didn't like was the infighting, changing leaders, party leadership contest. People don't like it. They really, really don't like it. You're talking about each other. You're talking about yourself. You're not talking about us. You're not worrying about us. And we are struggling. We're not, we're going out to work every day, or increasingly people not bothering to go out to work every day. We'll talk about that in a moment. And we need you to be focusing on us. And the reality is they're not. It's all about it's rubbing shoulders and trying to get ahead, as opposed to worrying about the people. And at the end of the day, voters will not look kindly on any of this.
Well, they won't, and they didn't. So I think last year was a testament to that. The Conservative Party are absolutely decimated at the polls, and probably deservedly so for an awful lot of the actions that took place. We did go through leaders like we were changing underwear and it's not a good look to get somebody in office and then get rid of them because you don't like them.
And here's the thing again, as we were discussing with the previous guest, you know, the stuff in the in tray, the numbers, the basic maths, none of it changes, whether it's a blue rosette, a red rosette, a teal rosette, whether it's a Keir Starmer or whether it's Wes Streeting, Shaban Mahmood, nothing changes. The numbers don't add up. You've got fewer people working, unless someone is willing to I mean, we are talking about gripping the bull by the horns, and I've made it very, very clear. I will be willing to leave my job and to go into a job where I don't care how much of a hate figure I become in terms of either mass deportations of illegal migrants, getting that sorted. I'm happy to do it when it comes. Happy to work in welfare and get people off. I'm literally no. You have to go and get a job. I'm genuinely of the view people will work when they're hungry enough. I would be as ruthless with other people's children as I would be with my own. About work ethic, and I'm literally. I mean, workfare camps if that's what's necessary. I think this country needs such a massive shake. We literally need to take the country by the shoulders and shake everybody and go, wake up. Wake up. You cannot have these you can't have like Germany level, or Norwegian level benefits when you're not paying that level of tax. If you want that, you're going to have to pay more tax. You're going to lose the nonsense of the NHS, and you're going to have to go to an insurance system. Yeah, we'll pay for the poorest people, that's fine, but you're going to have a reality check on that. But you've got to get people off welfare, and I don't mean saving 5 billion quid. I mean millions of people being told, no, you're not eligible for welfare. Tough, not going to happen. There is so much that needs to be done, and it needs to be done urgently, because I think we are running out of time to turn our country around.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, and I think the problem that you've got with politics is that politicians are only ever looking in 5-year blocks. So they're never going to do something which is going to affect them in 4.5 years' time. Now 3 years.
But then you look at Milei in Argentina, and the prediction that he would get trounced in the parliamentary elections because actually, people were having to really tighten their belts under his reforms to save the country's economy. Massive support for him, because people get it. But people always forget this. Austerity, so unpopular under Cameron and Osborne, 2010 under the coalition. Who won the 2015 general election? The Tories.
I know.
People aren't stupid. People get it. They get it.
And I think if they can see the point of what you're trying to do, even if they disagree with you, actually people will go,
you're not being cruel.
This is going to be painful, but... And ultimately, I'm going to end up better off. I'm going to end up with, a much nicer house and a better job.
Does anyone think that Shaban Mahmood or Wes Streeting or David Lammy or Edmund, anyone else, do you think any of those people would do a better job than Keir Starmer? He's rubbish. Would they do a better job?
I think my cat would do a better job. I really, really do.
Vote Claire's cat. What's your cat called?
He's called Tango.
Vote Tango, everybody. I'm in the Tango party. I mean, look, 1 million more people claiming benefits without the need to look for a job, i.e. basically written off on the scrap heap of life. 4 million people in this country. We are unique in this country, unique around the Western world in having so many people who have such bad mental health problems. Oh, it's the lockdown. Oh, it's the lockdown. Oh, sod off. There were lockdowns in plenty of other countries. Stricter lockdowns in many other countries than ours. By the way, they didn't have any fewer deaths as a result. Funny that. And people getting... And 1,000 jobs a day being lost because of Rachel Reeves's jobs tax. We are in an economic crisis.
We are, and this always happens, and I think the figures take a little bit of understanding as well. There is an enormous increase, no doubt about it, and there shouldn't be.
And it's recent.
It is recent. It's since what is it? Since up 50% since the Prime Minister came into power.
I mean,
that's quite a lot, isn't it? It's a lot of people
but why?
sitting
What do you
around.
think's behind that? I mean, I've had a few mental health problems since Keir Starmer's been Prime Minister.
Trust me.
I
could be sitting rocking in a corner, but I'll still turn up for work. I don't know. There's a lot of things. If you start to unpack it, the migration from legacy benefits onto universal credit will increase the figures, because you've taken everybody off of varying different benefits and saying you now claim universal credit. That will account for an increase. The new increase with people with leave to remain, indefinite leave to remain, that I think needs to be looked at. That's a worry. People with refugee status now claiming, also
so again,
needs
they
to be
basically, as soon as they've got that status, then they're entitled.
So we need to look at that.
Which is weird because, as you know, these people are all working as engineers and doctors.
Well, they are. I
just want to make that point every day. Just want to make that point. These people are all net contributors.
And then you've got those who claim that they cannot work through ill health. Now, there are some genuine people out there who cannot work because of the condition that they have. That's a small percentage.
And we need to help those people because we're a civilised society.
Of course we do. A friend of mine's got MS.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely give all the help to him. He has worked up until a certain point.
But you're genuinely not helping. You're just not helping
if
people
someone's a bit anxious.
Yeah. I mean, you know, again, it's so painful. It's so painful. I tell you what, I'd be a bit anxious if I worked at the BBC, because I don't think the BBC is going to survive. Not its enemies, but actually the enemy within, which is their abject, delusional. I don't know. Just their delusional idea of their own virtue. Tim Davie, the outgoing Director General, spoke for 40 minutes to BBC staff yesterday. He praised them. He praised how wonderful they were. He talked about how this was all the BBC, the bias scandal about the BBC engulfing the corporation was really down to the enemies of the BBC, inside and outside. And he said the broadcast was the very best of society. And as we were discussing an hour ago, the reality is, they do think that. They think they've not done anything wrong, even though they defrauded the public with a blatant splicing of two different 54 minutes apart sections of Donald Trump's speech. Deliberate. The only purpose of that was to mislead the viewer. Yeah. Everyone involved, from top to bottom, in that document should be sacked and never allowed to work again for the Beeb. Anyone who knew about it and didn't speak about it openly should be sacked. Anyone who criticised the whistleblower, Michael Prescott, should be sacked. Yeah. And if you're a media organisation, you don't welcome a whistleblower. You ain't a media organisation. And it's just absolutely shocking. But it's the fact that he thinks they're the very best of society. You're not even the best broadcaster, let alone, who watches the BBC anymore? But if they think they're the best of society, they think they're better than us. They think that they are nicer, kinder, better, more moral, more virtuous people than, certainly scum like me, far right bigots, on channels like mine, and they think that their audience, they think their job is to educate through propaganda and indoctrination, the plebs of Britain who like the Union flag and think we should have borders and think we should have cheap energy rather than having old people die in winter because they can't afford that. And think that people should go out to work and be able to feed their own kids. Those awful, horrible bigots. Yes, you. I'm talking about you. You awful human being. But that's what they think.
It is. I always find it's almost like a cult as well. This, the very best.
She said
society.
Cult. It was an L. It was an L.
There was an L. Absolutely. Just a hello, Ofcom. They believe that they are better than us.
Really do.
And we are the mere mortals that need to be told what to think.
Who pay for their wages.
Absolutely. They haven't seen the way that media is moving. They haven't seen the changes in the way people view news, they view programming. People want it at the time that they want it. Streaming services are taken off.
But they are doing a lot of that, but they just think they've got a God's-given right.
Absolutely. They haven't really moved on, though, with that, whereas other channels have, and they've adapted and they've produced other products, and they've got more people out there listening to them and watching them through different avenues. The BBC is so stuck because it's got the licence fee.
Yeah,
it's so
that's the thing.
stuck in
Their
what
budget,
they do.
and I've said to a former director general of the BBC, actually, he was talking about, he was doing some cuts, and I think we were sitting in a green room about to go on I think it was BBC Telly, and I said, seriously, you could cut half the staff, it wouldn't affect him. I know when I would do like a newspaper review on, say, Sky News or on the BBC, Sky News, there'd be one person who'd call me, book a car, the papers, there you go, what do you want to talk about? Lovely jubbly, thank you very much. And we're more streamlined than Sky, I can assure you that. And then the BBC, there'd be at least 10 people who had Oxbridge degrees with clipboards, getting involved, nothing of any use. And you think, what? How? And they're all sitting there when reading The Guardian, drinking their chai lattes. Genuinely, it's flabbergasting how many people they've got employed doing absolutely. But anyway, it is shocking. We're paying it. We're paying for it. Let's also, Donald Trump saying he's got an obligation. He says he is going to sue the BBC for $1 billion over that Dr. Panorama speech. At the end of the day, I quite like the fun and games over that, but it is our money.
It is our money. We mustn't forget that we would be paying that.
Unless it came out of Tim Davies' and Deborah Turness's pension. Quite happy for that to go towards it.
Yeah, it's never going to happen, is it? They've got that stitched up nicely, I should imagine.
And they're going to go on to super duper other jobs as well. You just know that.
Of course they are. I mean, you can see they're not really that bothered that they've just had to resign.
They did nothing wrong, and there is nothing wrong with the BBC, and there's no institutional bias. They've both said that.
Yeah. I mean, it is gobsmacking. I mean, there are so many problems with it. I don't like the use of the word obligation, though, by Donald Trump. I'm not sure that's what he means.
I mean, it's pompous, isn't it?
Yeah.
But again, if he gets the full apology, they'll have to pay out something.
Yeah, they will do, and they deserve to be fair.
Yeah, but again, it's us paying for it, which I've got an issue with. But again, if it's us paying for it, then I'm really sorry. But more heads are going to have to roll for me. Let's talk about the France stopping fewer small boats under the Starmer deal. Just a quarter of boats are getting stopped now. That's since that deal was implemented. You know, the big little exchange program. We had a girl, and a second migrant who came here, was detained, was deported to France at a great expense on a British Airways flight. Other airlines, cheaper airlines, are available, and then has come back here. I'm assuming and I've written in The Sun before, I'm absolutely assuming that the migrant smugglers are now offering, 2 for the price of 1 deals and guarantee if you get sent back, don't worry, we'll take you back for a cheaper price or for free. Guaranteed you can stay in Britain. He's come back. The government claims this is a victory because they've identified him and they're going to send him back, which is a joke. But, I mean, France basically not doing the thing that we pay them, $750 million to do?
Shock. I'm shocked.
We're all shocked.
Okay, well, the French haven't done anything. I have been over there. I have spoken to French interior ministers. I've stood on.
This is when you worked at the Home Office.
When I worked at the Home Office, and we didn't have such a large problem as we do now.
Well, was a lot of Gaelic shrugging.
There was.
I think I don't know.
There was an awful lot of that.
Not my problem.
We were standing on a beach at midnight. In January, it was so cold, it was so dark, and there'd be just people sort of standing around going, well, this is your problem. And that was back in 2018. They said, this is your problem.
They were still coming through lorries.
They were, and we were trying to desperately deal with fences around the port. But it is not surprising. It is not in France's interest to do anything to help us.
I think it is, because lots of people are only going through France to get to the UK, and therefore they wouldn't be going. They know they're going to be badly treated in France, and so they wouldn't go to France if they. Oh no, genuinely, I think they're missing a trick here. But I think politically it doesn't work. I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming Macron will end up in prison like every former French president, so that then we can have our last laugh. I do not think that legal reasons. Let's also talk about the decision by a High Court judge yesterday, the Epping Hotel, the Bell Hotel, that was the centre of those protests, and we're going to be talking to a guest who's been involved in those a little bit later, over asylum seekers, which those protests started. Let's not forget, over after a 14-year-old girl in her school uniform was sexually assaulted by a migrant who subsequently has been imprisoned and then accidentally freed, absconded, 2-day manhunt, and has now been deported to Ethiopia with 500 quid of your or my money in his pocket. Story just gets better. But basically, the local council went, hold on a minute, Epping, Bell Hotel, you didn't get planning permission. We don't want you to house the asylum seekers there anymore. The local people don't want it. But they basically have lost that, and asylum seekers can be housed there. Again, I mean,
it's amazing how much of life comes down to planning. As you were talking about with Brendan Chilton earlier, planning laws are one of the things that underpin this country. It's the one thing that gets everybody agitated. And in this case, you have a hotel which has got a change of use to not being a hotel. And the judge seemingly has said, well, actually it's fine, you've still got people staying there, you've still got people in roofs, so therefore it's fine. And it's like, well, no, like, the planning laws in this country are such that the local authority gave them permission to open as a hotel, not as a hostel. Well, and that's the thing, my
local hotel that is now a hostel, I've checked, there's been no planning application to change the status. But again, if they close the hotel, they're going to be put into local housing. I don't want them in either. But the closing of the hotels is simply a PR move. It's a money-saving exercise and a PR move. But that means that those people will be just living, next door to you, as opposed to the end of the road in the hotel where you know where they are. And I'm sorry, given again, no one is saying that every single one of those young men is a sex offender or a violent thief, but too many of them appear to be so.
Yeah. Well,
therefore...
And I think we don't know. And I think that the communities that have those hotels want to be heard and listened to, and they don't feel like they are. And I agree with you.
They don't feel like they are because they're not.
No, and I agree with you. I don't want them sort of put into houses of multiple occupation in a street where there are children and we don't know where they are.
But also, local people need those homes. That's the reality, don't they? So much more to talk about. I want to hear from you. Calls on any and every topic, particularly on the madness of this sort of toxic culture at Number 10, where they're briefing against cabinet ministers. I mean, they've briefed against virtually everybody, haven't they?